Well, if it isn't pretty obvious to everybody by now, let me let you in on a little conspiracy theory here. The two major political parties in the United States are controlled by the same small group of billionaires. They needed to have the elimination of a lot of stuff that Biden strangely wrote into legislation regarding regulation of AI and the rest of all of that AI tech nonsense. And yes, I do know what AI is, and I've been working in TTL circuitry all of my life. I know what a PC is. I know what an operating system. I know what DOS is. I know what a backbone is. I know what a kernel is. Okay, so yeah, I'm a boomer, but I'm actually one of the guys that invented what you guys are using to criticize us now for not knowing anything about technology. Let me get back to the point here. The purpose of AI, first of all, I will discuss in another point, but what I want to tell you now is that we do not have control of our democracy, and maybe have not for many, many decades. And what's happening right now is that because the Biden administration made some furtive attempts to regulate what's going on in AI and AI research and energy management, et cetera, made some furtive attempts to do that. And those needed to be changed and reversed in a lot of cases. The powers that be looked at the playing field and decided that Donald Trump could be dealt with. He could be convinced, he could be controlled. And they knew quite a bit about him from his past failed administration. So what they decided to do is to set up the Democratic Party or Democrat Party as a chump. And what I mean by that is they picked the most unlikely person to become elected in the Democratic Party, and made her the front runner for the Democrats, the nominee of the Democrats, and managed to convince enough people in power that she would be a viable candidate, even though during the debates with Warren and who else was it, Bernie Sanders, et cetera, back in 2016, she was absolutely the last out of all those candidates. And then, of course, moving forward, she was the last in terms of who won those debates back in 2016. And of course, they screwed Bernie Sanders twice out of the nomination. I don't know if he would have been any good or not, but he certainly would have made an attempt at regulating the banking industry. In any case, moving forward now, they decided that the Democratic Party needed to be wielded in such a way that it would nominate her, without any primaries, by the way, to be their front runner, and then convince people that somehow that idea was viable, which they did. Surprise, surprise, she ran. She lost miserably to Donald fucking Trump, who got even also most of the popular vote. So now they're going to get what they want. What is the purpose of AI? Well, the number one purpose is to make these people that are in charge of it more money, period. Keep them in power in the Western world, and then they'll go from there. But the other intent of it is, in the long run, the benefits are going to be to warp data and warp AI into a system of propaganda that will spew out a lot of horse shit that you can already see, not just wokeism, but to the point where arguing that males desire fit women is somehow abusive to women, and their natural biological urges to be attracted to fit women rather than on fat ones is somehow a perversion that the male needs to address. We have that coming out of AI. We have AI explaining to us very carefully that there's really a great deal of difference between the concept of the Aryan race and the concept of the Jewish exceptional race in terms of what we've seen being yielded in Israel today and the genocide that's occurring there. Somehow, that doesn't understand that there's any kind of ideological equation between the supreme race and the chosen people of God. Because, of course, as it was explained to me by AI, being the chosen people of God is a burden. So, even though one retired senator or governor in the Midwest just referred to the Jewish people as the, quote, masters of the universe. He's retired, of course, so he doesn't have to make any sense. I'm sure it never went to anybody's head. Then we've got Ellison and his son buying Media Up, CBS and TikTok, and Donald Trump turns his head the other way. And we also have them building data centers all over the United States and expecting us to pay the water bill and the power bill for all of that, because they're certainly not going to pay for it. Of course, they're going to own those things themselves. So it's going to be socialism for them, because we will provide them with assistance in building all these things, basically tax-free and burden-free of increased costs. And then we will lay the burden on the American people for those costs. And we see that in Gaza, in us providing the bombs and weapons and encouragement and alliance to the Bibi Netanyahu government. So I can go on and on and on about the horrible, horrible things that are happening in the United States, and wherein probably a good 20 to 30% of us are still watching the legacy news and believing what it says, and not thinking that they have any political motivation at all or economic motivation at all to misrepresent the facts. Where does that leave us? I'm not sure. All I can do, because I have yelled and screamed and moaned and pissed about us getting a new political party, because these two parties are absolutely and totally controlled by the oligarchs and the billionaires in the United States, and frankly, mostly in the United States. I won't say there's a lot coming out of Japan or China or anywhere else in the world, India, etc. Most of it's being controlled from right here in the good old USA. And they don't have good things in store for any of us. And if you hear them talk, if you sit down and listen to them, whether it's Peter Thiel or Elon Musk or Zuckerberg or Billy Gates, the child molester, and all of these people that are in charge. And if you look at what happened to the test run that they had with COVID and how many businesses were destroyed. You remember that at the beginning of COVID, they gave the airlines some billions and billions and billions of dollars to make sure they didn't go belly up. And they gave other industries billions and billions and billions of dollars so they didn't go belly up. And they gave everybody, what was it, $1,200, something like that, so that they would feel like their little businesses weren't destroyed, which of course they were by the tens and twenties and hundreds of thousands all over the United States. So all of this is happening right now. And until we grow up and until we start voting responsibly and we find a different party to vote for, we create a different party to vote for, We are fucking doomed. We are just fucking doomed. I don't see any way around it. And with the amount of so-called security that they've been able to build up since 9/11 to, quote, protect us, justifying torture of human beings, murder without trial, which is what Obama did, the war in Iraq, which is what Bush, there's no difference between any of these people. They all come from the same streets in the same rough country. And if we don't get some enlightened people back into power that are interested in maintaining civility in this country, we will not, we probably won't even know it. I don't think we even know it now that we've lost the country, basically. Do you know that? Am I just a grumpy old man again, yelling at the moon, yelling at the tides? And I'm 75, and I don't see a path forward without a huge amount of change, a huge amount of wake up, and I don't see that happening. You know, I just don't see it happen. And the more I see on YouTube, and the more I see on X and Telegraph and Rumble and all of these other so-called social media platforms, not really interested in Facebook that much, or Zuckerberg's thing, but the other ones, I'm not seeing an awakening here. I'm not seeing a sense of urgency. And it may be just simply that I'm just waking up to it, and it might have been going on for decades and I didn't know it. The preparation for this, the struggle for power, the control of the American people and the public system. Maybe that's all just illusion that I've got that we can do something about this. And maybe we can't. Americans always assume that we can do better, we can make things better, we see things that are wrong and we jump out of our cars to help others. We feel that we can work our way up. We still have all these beliefs, but those beliefs are slowly turning into the European belief, which is accept the inevitable and submit. Once we've lost that edge as Americans, then we have nothing but the delusion of our own pride. And we're already getting there. I hear right-wingers always arguing, oh, you don't think America is exceptional? Is it? Has it been? It ain't now. For a lot of the kids, I think maybe Chinese communism is a better idea. There are probably more accurate feelings of the pulse of the Chinese people by their political party, who actually might respond a little bit in one way or another, maybe in a devastatingly evil way, but still more in touch with their own people than our politicians are with ours, with our people, with a Nancy Pelosi and a Schubert and what's his name, Johnson, and Lindsey, whatever his name is, Lindsey Graham, and Donald Trump and J.D. Vance and the rest of these people. I'm sorry, I'm exhausted talking about this shit. I've got to stop doing it. I don't even get 5, 10, 15 views on my stuff. So I think there's just, there's too much noise out there for me to be heard, or either for me to be heard or for me to be heard and taken seriously or genuinely or anything else. So it's going to be the last thing I do for quite a while. I'm going to try to distribute what I've already expressed on all of these YouTube videos that I've done, and I'm going to leave it at that. There's really nothing new to talk about, other than, I begged Tucker Carlson to develop his own political party. I don't think anybody's responded to that I know of, and I don't see a solution for this. I think we will simply go quietly into that good night and say that once we did have, if not a full democratic republic, at least we had a clear illusion of one than we're going to have for anybody now who pays attention, anybody who has the stoicism to push aside their emotions long enough to take a view of the earth and all of its creatures and see that we're not really adding any value to that planet any longer, nor are we to our own selves. All right, that'll do it. Sorry about the preaching again. For what it's worth,